Ain't no half stepping on Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. I want to change gears, dog. You alluded to it earlier about Ben Carson and the comments that he made over the weekend with regards to Muslim presidents. The possibility, let me rephrase that, to a Muslim being the president of the United States. I'm guessing you heard about the comment. What do you think? I mean, he basically said that the United States should not elect a Muslim president. There's a lot that there's a lot to respond to there, and he even cites the Constitution. He says, quote, "I would not advocate that we put a Muslim in charge of this nation. I absolutely would not agree with that," is what he said. His comment comes on the heels of Donald Trump taking a question from a campaign rally attendee who said that we have a problem in this country. It's called Muslims. And Trump has said that he has many Muslim friends, which he always says. He's got a lot of black friends, which he's always says. He's got a lot of Mexican friends, which he's always said. But then
he also said that he didn't hear the question, but while the person asked the question, he turned to the audience and said, "Oh, this type of question.
This is what we need.
Think about that."
Yeah, that's what he said. This is what we need. Asked back to Ben Carson, asked whether Islam is consistent with the Constitution. He said, "No, I don't. I do not." Basically, the Constitution specifically says that your religion has nothing to do with you being the president of this nation that we live in. So hearing that backdrop, what's your thoughts on Ben Carson at this point?
The Constitution basically says, it's Article 6 of the United States Constitution, made in accordance with it as supreme law of the land, forbids a religious test as a requirement for holding a governmental position, and holds the United States under the Constitution responsible for debts incurred by the United States under Articles of the Confederation. End point of story. And also, these are the same people. See, this is the I almost went there. This is the BS that goes on. These individuals that want to pump up the Constitution and the forefathers and so on and so forth. Well, if you want to ride with them lock and step, then where is the separation of church and state? You know what I'm saying? We, as an American culture, we elect these individuals on two things that ain't got shit to do with the position: money and your religion.
Yeah, and
both of them have nothing to do with
why
I want you to be in this particular position of a political office. But guess what? What's the two things that we all that every political cycle, they talk about the individual's religion and they talk about how much money they can raise.
Yeah, and it's crazy if you go back and you look at history. Everybody that did great things in this country wasn't all Christian, by the way. And to take it a step further, if we are to assume that the Islamic radicals are the face of the religion of Islam, then as a black man, and that's another analogy that I made, when I was having the discussion with these people, because I basically said to them, actually, I'm going to introduce something else before I get into that, because there's something that I want to kind of share and how I said it to them, because I want to share with our listeners. So go ahead and make your point.
Let me say something. This country is real wild with the way that they do things and the way things are being said, so on and so forth. That analogy of, if the KKK is not a representation of the Catholic Christian religion, then why is ISIS supposed to be the representation of Islam? But what's more so, man, is that a lot of people our age don't remember, and of course I don't remember, but I had to do my own research. People went batshit crazy because Kennedy was a Catholic.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they went crazy.
Let that sink in right now.
No, I can
let
dig
that
it.
sink in.
Hey, look, I can absolutely dig it. And,
you know what I'm saying?
And to take it a step further, the way it's written, the Constitution is written, you're not supposed to. I mean, they'll say, the separation of church and state, but at the same time, the narrative of the country, particularly in the last 15 years, probably going back to the first Gulf War, they've slowly indoctrinated or brainwashed the American people to believe that Islam is a hateful religion full of, you know, devastation and meanness and death and all of this kind of stuff, you know. And I think that people are conveniently forgetting some of the messed up stuff that Christians have done in this world and Catholics have done in this world, like the Crusades,
let's say slavery, let's say the extinction of a whole race of Indian people. I probably could go on and on and on, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I can dig it. And, you know, I always would like to, you know, paraphrase one of Malcolm X's quotes. You know, I like to cite him a lot, but he was talking about during the slavery times when you're hanging from a tree, you know, saying, "Oh Lord, please save me." You know, the person who's got the other end of that rope is saying, "Kill this N-word in the name of Jesus, Amen." Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I mean, so when you consider the ultimate contradiction that you will see in all of the religions, you know, I find it quite hypocritical to look at the Islamic faith and find that they are any worse than anything that Christians and Catholics have done in the history of this world. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. We're waiting on the #1 true fighter, Warren Ballantyne. He's going to join us in the next segment. We're talking to our brother K-Dub right now. We're going through a litany of topics from Trump to Carson. We're talking about the comments that Ben Carson made over the weekend about Muslims. Another thing I want to get to when we're talking about Muslims.
Are you talking about Ben Carson? Because I got one thing that I need to say in regards to the question that was asked.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I'll transition to my next piece in a minute. Go ahead.
He stated the question, I believe, was asking him about a Muslim president or what have you. What Ben Carson should have done, and I put a little bit of the blame also on I think it was Chuck Todd that asked him the question. That's a dumbass question, because guess what? The easiest thing that Ben Carson could have done, which would have turned the table, is said, okay, what type of Muslim are you referring to? Are you referring to a radical Islamist? Are you referring to the Nation of Islam?
He's not
are you what? Because we all know that are you talking about a Sunni Muslim?
There's
different sects of sects,
just like there's different sects of Christianity. Muslim. Yeah, and they don't use the word sect, but you know, tell a Protestant, you know, tell a Seventh-day Adventist, or tell a Pentecostal or a Methodist or a Baptist. You know, those are sects. People, you may not use the word, you may not like to use the word, but you know, if you have one overall religion and you are a different denomination of that overall religion, you know, Christians call it denominations and Muslims call it sects. You know, that's really the difference. So ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. All right, another thing that I want to get to is Ahmed Mohamed. Ahmed Mohamed was the young boy who was arrested in Texas school for taking a homemade clock to school. The teacher saw it and assumed that it was some sort of bomb. The police were called in. Young Mohamed was handcuffed and led out of school before having the clock being determined to be just what it was, a clock. I know that you had seen this story last week. I think we all have. Tell me what your thoughts are. We'll talk about it.
I think that it's a crock of BS. They didn't think that boy had a bomb. Here's why. If they did thought that he had a bomb, right? Did they evacuate the school? Did they call a bomb squad? They put the bomb in the same room as him when they were questioning him. All right? They waited for the police to arrive. They put the clock in the same damn car as the police. And they took pictures of it. Now, you tell me, if there was a bomb in wherever, how many times have we been watching the news and they went to a bomb scare and they showed everybody just nowhere near, and they take the robot and they go and they blow it up? There was an incident maybe a year ago where there was a suspicious package on a bridge here at Atlanta or what have you. They shut the highway down because the overpass went over the highway, and they had the remote control robot to go and inspect it, and found out that it wasn't a bomb. So you are going to tell me that you think it's a bomb, but you don't take the necessary precautions just in case it was a bomb? And keep in mind, this was a school.
It was a school. And you know what else about the school, Dub? The school suspended him, and when it was found that he had done nothing wrong, they refused to rescind this suspension. Young Ahmed remained suspended from school because of building a clock. Basically, he showed as a 14-year-old his application for science, and him just basically being a creative young man, and for that he was punished with the embarrassment of being photographed for the world to see, walking out of the school, and the irony of him wearing a NASA t-shirt showing how brilliant this kid was. And you have a lot of those on the right side that are suggesting that this whole thing was created to create sympathy for the backlash of Islamic and Muslim hatred in this country. I think is outrageous. And you even have some folks who are saying that he is in fact a terrorist and this was a ploy, somewhat of a smokescreen. It's outrageous the way that people have been allowed to show outward examples of hatred and venom for the Islamic faith, for homosexuals. It's just crazy to me that in 2015 that we are so brainwashed to follow the mindless rhetoric of the Bush family, because I'm very, very convinced that they are the source of our hatred. If you go back to Prescott Bush and the things that he did with regards to World War II and how he financed the Nazis, all the way to his son having some very questionable activity around the assassination of President Kennedy, also being the president of the United States during the original invasion of Kuwait, all the way up to George W. Bush sending us into Iraq because of the weapons of mass destruction, so they say. All these things, of course, not Prescott Bush, but all the way up to, you know, Daddy Bush and Junior Bush, you know, starting this national hatred towards this faith. It just blows. It blows my mind up, and to be completely frank with you, it scares me, because it's a different kind of multi-pronged attack against a group that we as black people are very, very familiar with. What do you say?
I say you're right along. You're right along with it. It's. I don't know if it's coincidental or what it may be, but it's real wild how people's venom really got put out there. And let's say starting around 2006. I wonder what was going on around 2006. Oh, that's right. The black dude was trying to run for president. That's right. I think that because of the fact that the president is, a black person or what have you, I think that it gave people the right to start to express themselves in a racist, prejudiced way, being able to mask it or hide behind it, saying, hiding behind it as being politics and so on and so forth. Also with the rise of social media as well, because we all know a lot of keyboard thugs out there that, they big bad and tough in front of the keyboard, but they wouldn't even dare to open their mouth and say some of the things that they type in the face of someone.
Dude, I've gotten inboxes from them, so I know who they are.
Oh yeah. and you know about an individual that I kind of go back and forth with, and he happens to be of Latino descent, and he is very hard right, and he does and says some of the most idiotic things in regards to Islam. And I tell him, and anyone that knows the Jersey City, Newark area, I tell him, hey, I guarantee you wouldn't go down to Broad Market and say that same thing.
No.
Hey, never got a response on that.
No.
But I think that with the rise of social media and the president being in the office, it gives people more of a right to really show their prejudice and their outright racism.
And I have Steppin with Marcus J. live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. This next one and this last one, because we're gonna get into this one and then I'm gonna let you go, bro. This last one is one that really got me in my feelings. This one is about Minister Louis Farrakhan, and in the interest of full disclosure, I'm not a big fan of his. I've never been a big fan of his. I respect some of what he does, and other things I don't respect. I shouldn't say don't respect, but you know, I still have my concerns about his participation or knowledge, I should say, is a better word, of Malcolm X's assassination. It was an inside job. We all know the Nation of Islam took Malcolm X out, and Louis Farrakhan was the heir apparent, and he was Malcolm's protege. So I got issues with him that I still deal with. I've been to hear him speak. I have been to his marches. You know, I'm someone who understands that the Nation of Islam is necessary. And, you know, I'll just kind of leave it at that. Recently, the church down in South Carolina in Charleston, where Dylan Ruth, Mother Emanuel, I believe is the name of the church. Dylan Ruth went in there as a young white supremacist terrorist, had gone into that church and killed a bunch of black people in that church. And the church was very quick to speak to their forgiveness of him, Dylan Roof, and you know, they asked for forgiveness for him and his soul and all of those things. When the Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan tried to organize a speech in Charleston to promote the upcoming Justice or Else event slated for October 10th in D.C., there was a consistent denial of use of facilities from schools, churches, and other places normally open for public events and speakers. Last week, Trident Technical College posted an announcement on its Facebook page that said the agreement to rent space to the MM20, which is the Million Man March 20th anniversary, for its event on September 15th with Speaker Louis Farrakhan had actually been canceled. The event was not planned, sponsored, or endorsed by the Trident Technical College. I'm getting this, by the way, from melanoidnation.org. melanoidnation.org. I was supposed to speak at Mother Emanuel, but they rejected me. And then we went to another church to speak, and they rejected me as well. Went to 3 churches. Then one church was willing to let me come, but they said, you got to sign a paper that you're not going to say nothing controversial. See, if God calls you, what you got to do to go, let me back up, I'm sorry. See, if God calls you, what you do, you got to go to the white man and get a license for it. He's asking it as a question. That quote was from the minister himself. So, Dub, the short version of the long explanation that I just set up was Minister Louis Farrakhan went to many churches, including the church that Dylan Roof murdered 9 people, and he was rejected by all of them, not allowed to speak out in support of the Million Man March 20th anniversary. What do you say about this, man? This one got me in my feelings. I got to be honest with you.
It sucks because you know why, man? Because what he said is absolutely right, and I guarantee that if Brother Malcolm was still around, that sounds like something that Brother Malcolm would say. It's sad because, you know, and I know Brother Warren, I've heard him say this before, don't follow no scared Negro because a scared Negro gets you killed. Yeah, man. You know, and obviously we know that Minister Farrakhan is not a scared Negro. It's a sad situation, man, because it's, you know, it's like people are still stuck in the 60s. I bet you if someone came down there and said they wanted to march, they probably would have made that pop off. Yeah. And just like you know, that situation, it reminds me and I'll keep it real quick. There was a scenario down in the South years ago when Dr. King was around, and there was a prominent preacher. I want to say it was in Alabama. Prominent preacher, very wealthy, owned some stores or whatever. And a group of white men came and killed him. And a group of black pastors kind of came together and said, "Well, look, man, you know, if this guy is, you know, a leader in the black community, he's a top businessman or whatever. If they're going to go out and kill him, then shoot, what they're going to do with us?" So Dr. King decided, hey, you know, let's try to, you know, organize and do something. And all of those particular black churches, black leaders, black pastors basically said, no, I don't want you to come here. So it just so happens that a Masonic lodge reached out to Dr. King and allowed him to come to the city. He did his speech or what have you, and they made sure that he arrived and departed safely. But that's almost damn near similar to what the story that you just read.
Right.
And and you and I have had discussions about this before. We always look at our history and think everybody was down. Everybody, it was kumbaya, and everybody was reading off the same sheet of music. But we all know, if you really not looked in the history books, but got the real history from your grandparents, your great grandparents, you would know that, A, back in the day, everybody wasn't down for Malcolm X. They thought that Negro was crazy. B, everybody wasn't down for Dr. King. They thought that he was just making trouble and it wasn't going to help us. But now you got everybody is down with Martin King. And everybody talks very highly of Malcolm X, but we know that during that time, especially white people, but black people weren't down.
I can do it one better. Because my parents are in their late 60s and early 70s, and they can give us, and your grandmother right there with them, because we've all had conversations sitting around the same dinner table with your grandmother and my parents. And the truth of the matter is, they can give us firsthand. There's only one generation to go, bruh. They can tell us what their feelings were. Martin Luther King spoke in your church.
Yep.
He spoke in
my church from my great grandmother making that happen.
He spoke in your church.
Everybody wasn't down.
Everybody wasn't down, and it's crazy because I remember having a conversation with an elder, just like you said, they thought Malcolm X was crazy, and Martin Luther King was getting banned from churches, and they didn't want him to come, and they didn't want to be the good black folk that pissed off the white folk in the neighborhood because they knew it was going to make their life difficult. You know what I'm saying? And so when I see a story in 2015, you don't have to agree with the rhetoric. I've got a family member, and a lot of times people call me a race baiter because I always like to point out people, white, black, everybody should be themselves. You shouldn't have to say that. No, I don't agree with that, because I think, a lot of times if we spend so much time rejecting our blackness and rejecting our whiteness, we're never going to get nowhere. So I think it's appropriate oftentimes to point out the fact that the person I was dialoguing with was a white female from the South who is very, very fair-minded and honest in her opinions and never disrespectful, but very firm as I am, and I love her for it. She's someone that's in my family, and we were going back and forth about the Farrakhan thing, and she was saying that they don't want him there not because he's the black leader of the Nation of Islam, but because he speaks about violence and how he incites violence. And she cited, several articles, not one, but several articles where Minister Farrakhan had asked and called on, the hunting and murder of white people. But I had to caution her to pay attention to the things he said, because what he said was, to go and deal with the people who have harmed you first. He ain't telling you to go after somebody blindly. He ain't telling you to go pick a white dude off the street and tie him to the back of your pickup truck and make sure that he gets beheaded and body parts strewn across the neighborhood like they've done so many times to us. Nobody's asking for that. Nobody would ask for that. And when I see a church that had a white supremacist come in there and shoot up the whole church, killing elders and children, or shooting children, because there were some young people that were injured in there, and that same church rejects the Nation of Islam, who's coming in there to speak on the anniversary of the Million Man March. That's, to me, some of the most Sambo, self-hating black people I ever heard of in my life. And
but we're gonna forgive them. But we're gonna
forgive the white dude that shut up the church, but we ain't gonna forget a brother who's gonna come in here and try to tell you how to love one another, and how to be strong with one another, and how to put yourself together, and how not to drink and not to smoke and not to commit adultery, and to stand upright and own your own businesses and support your own. You know what I mean? And if you come into my neighborhood and you're not doing right, you're trying to harm me, then off with your head. You're not going to support that guy, but you're going to say you forgive the guy that came in there and shot up your people. Man,
but I would also say in her, what you need to do, again, thinking that third eye, that third ear, who's delivering that message to you? You know what I'm saying? The minister may have said one way. He may have said it in a way that you would understand exactly how it is. But when that individual is writing the article, how forthcoming are they giving you the exact view or the exact sentiment of what the minister was getting across.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because we all know, and you being in a journalist, we all know that a statement or a mindset can change 180 degrees just by the omission or the adding of one word.
One word. That's all it takes. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. It's a good place to end it, man. I appreciate you for being here and spending this time with us. We had a lot of powerful things that we got into. Coming up in the next segment, we've got the #1 true fighter, Warren Ballentine, is going to join us here on Ain't No Half Step with Marcus J, live from the Den of Legacy Internet Radio. Warren Ballentine of the Warren Ballentine Show, heard every single day, Monday through Friday, from 10 a.m. Eastern until 1 p.m. Eastern on the Empowerment Radio Network. K-Dub, final words before I let you go?
Final words, man. Hey, I appreciate you allowing me to get on here and express myself. I know my wife is tired of me yelling at her, saying the same, not yelling at her, but saying the same things, but we're saying it in the confines of our own home. But I just want to say I appreciate you. Thank you, man. And for all of those that's out here that hear my voice, that know me, peace to you. And hey, tell your loved ones you love them.
You got it. Ain't no hashtag with Marcus J. Dub. Hold the line. Ain't no hashtag with Marcus J. Live from the Den, Legacy Internet Radio. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we got the #1 truth fighter, Warren Ballentine of the Warren Ballentine Show and Empowerment Radio Network, going to join us coming up next. Stay with us. Marcus J. K-Dub. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Be back in a few minutes.